As your education station, KHOU 11 is getting you ready for the new school year. In this KHOU 11 Rewind, we'll take a look at the issues that matter most to Houston area parents, the ones that you told us you care about. Issues like school safety, teacher turnover, curriculum changes, equity and inclusion, learning loss, and more. Hey there, I'm Brandy, digital anchor at KHOU 11 and mom of kids starting their junior and senior years of high school. So some of you are right there with me. Some of you are just starting the school journey, and others, well, you are slogging through it as best you can. KHOU 11 has done a back to school survey the past couple of years, and I want to show you the results so far. Thousands of parents answered our call to tell us about their school experience, explain the issues they're focused on, and ask questions of district leaders. There's still time to fill it out. You just text the word school to 713-526-1111 and we'll send you the link to the survey. Now here's what we've learned so far. Parents say their number one concern is safety and security. Second, the teacher shortage, which is tied with preparedness for the next grade level. Third, curriculum. Fourth, equity and inclusion for their child. And fifth, learning loss. So let's tackle some of these, starting with safety and security. Adam Bennett examined new laws aimed at keeping your kids safe in their classroom.
After the school shooting in Uvalde last year, school safety took center stage in Austin this year.
31 ayes and no nays, the bill is finally passed.
Starting September 1st, schools must have armed officers or armed staff members and train staff to ID students who may need mental health support. Lawmakers gave districts flexibility in meeting those requirements. All classrooms will be required to have silent panic buttons. The Texas Education Agency will gain more power to make sure campuses are following safety requirements, like intruder detection audits or risk state supervision. The TEA and Texas School Safety Center will now be required to jointly assess campuses' security at least once every 4 years. And parents, districts will notify you of violent activity on campus using standards the TEA must now create. Finally, districts will need to provide maps of each school to DPS and local emergency responders and let them walk through buildings.
Families from Uvalde and Santa Fe were pushing for a law to raise the age to buy an AR-15 style rifle from 18 to 21. The bill advanced further than expected, but ultimately failed. Adam Bennett, KHOU 11 News.
So, as of September 1st, Texas schools need to have armed officers. Rika Mudaraj checked in with Houston ISD to find out how it's responding to the new law.
An HISD spokesperson tells me each middle and high school campus has always had at least one HISD police officer who was armed. Currently, officers posted at elementary schools are not armed, and that is the issue going into the school year. The state's new school safety law, House Bill 3, goes into effect in September. It requires an armed officer at every school campus in the state of Texas. The legislation does not outline penalties for districts that can't meet the requirement, but it does allow for a school board to claim a good cause exception and says the district must outline an alternative safety plan to the state. HISD has told us it will be claiming that exception, adding, quote, "We will not only ensure full compliance with the law, but more importantly, ensure we safeguard the well-being of our students and staff." But it is a large undertaking for the state's largest school district for at least two reasons. While the state is giving each school district a $15,000 grant per campus, plus another $10 per student for school safety expenses, the Texas Association of School Boards estimates the cost of hiring a police officer could range from $80,000 to $100,000 a year. The other challenge is filling those positions amid a statewide law enforcement shortage, and that may force many school districts to look at alternatives, such as arming school staff or hiring private security officers to guard campuses. HISD has not specified whether it is considering that option. In the newsroom, I'm Rika Mudaraj for KHOU 11 News.
More armed officers are coming to elementary schools in 6 Houston area districts via the Guardian program. It's being rolled out by Harris County Precinct 4 Constable Mark Herman. Adam Bennett's back to explain how this program works.
For Spring High junior Dennis Tejada
I think about my life.
and Klein Kane mom Rachel McCall.
You don't want that call during the day, so very important.
School safety is a key issue. For parents who've taken our back to school survey, it's the top issue.
It's also top of mind for Harris County Precinct 4 Constable Mark Herman.
There's no greater service than protecting the kids.
Today, he unveiled a plan to use retired and former police officers from his Reserve Deputy Division as student resource officers at elementary schools. They're certified peace officers with the same powers and training as any other deputy. The only difference, they're unpaid volunteers.
I had one gentleman call me and said, hey, so I live in the Humble area and I would love to work the school where my granddaughter goes. And I said, sure.
The Guardians will wear the Precinct 4 uniform and drive Precinct 4 vehicles, but work under the umbrella of their campus's ISD police chief. They'll be joined by more than 200 of Constable Herman's regular deputy constables assigned to campuses across Spring, Tomball, Klein, Cy-Fair, Humble, and Aldine ISDs.
The majority of the issues are at high schools and middle schools so that you kind of divert your resources. But we've got to think, even though there's no problems per se at elementaries, when it comes to protecting our kids, we've got to make them part of the equation.
Herman says the Guardian program will take about half of his reserve deputies away from his patrol division.
It may increase my response time by 1 or 2 minutes, on some calls, but and some calls may hold a little bit longer. But we got to prioritize our law enforcement. We got to think outside the box.
Constable Herman didn't discuss the total number of reserve deputies or schools benefiting for security reasons. He's asking retired, honorably discharged police officers to apply. They'll undergo background checks and get the training they need to work for schools in their community. Safety concerns don't focus solely on the threat of violence. A recent FDA report shows 1 in 4 teenagers regularly vape, and it's increasingly happening inside schools. Administrators are doing what they can to detect and deter it. Jason Miles showed us how.
It's the day before the new school year in Montgomery ISD, where the halls of Montgomery High School will soon be filled with some 1,600 students, all of whom are reminded that vape detectors are in use inside every restroom.
The thing with the vapes is they're hard to physically detect. I mean, they can come in so many different shapes and sizes and forms.
But Interim Superintendent Amy Busby says the vapor they and e-cigarettes emit is detectable, and the reason the district decided to outfit both of its high schools.
Last year was our first year to install the vape detectors.
The devices look similar to smoke detectors.
And so kids won't know that it's been activated. We will know.
Principal Noah Hollander says instead of blaring like a smoke alarm, an instantaneous alert pops up in his email.
And then we're either able to respond directly to the restroom, see if they're still there. Otherwise, we go into investigation mode.
While discipline is automatic for anyone who gets caught, deterrence rather than detection is the primary goal.
Vaping has a lot of toxics and chemicals.
Esther Gabay helps run Harris County Public Health's Youth Vaping Prevention Program, aimed at educating young people on the risks of vaping in the first place, including the potential impact on brain development.
What we want to convey to the community is that vaping and e-cigarettes usage can really have a detrimental health effects to health.
And possibly impact your education as well.
Jason checked with a number of Houston area districts and found most, including HISD, do not use vape detectors. However, vaping at school does have consequences. It's against state law to buy or own e-cigarettes or vapes if you're younger than 21. Getting to school can be dangerous too. That's why a little reminder about the rules you need to follow in school zones is in order. Jennifer Reyna offers a review.
We know you know, slow down in school zones. We also know a lot of drivers don't. To show you what it looks like when you speed, we went to the National Highway Transportation Safety Advisory to highlight what can happen. 2 things factor into the equation. The typical reaction time to actually recognize a child running in the road is about 3/4 of a second. Add another 3/4 of a second to slam the brakes. That's 1.5 seconds. Then you have to add up the distance it actually takes your car to stop. Let's say you're going the speed limit in a school zone, 20 miles per hour, in ideal conditions with dry roads. Your car will stop in 63 feet. That's 44 feet for your reaction time, and assuming you are alert, 19 feet for braking distance. Now, if you're speeding, going 30 and a 20, that distance almost doubles. Your car will need 119 feet to stop. That's about a half a football field. And if you're going 40, 20 over the speed limit in a school zone, it will take your car 164 feet to stop. And when it comes to stopping distance, the mechanics of your car, the conditions of your tires, and the road conditions all play a role, proving each second counts.
And if you want to check road conditions before you leave the house, just text the word traffic to 713-526-1111. We'll shoot you back some links to help you with the commute. Now, one more story on the topic of student safety, specifically student athletes. Houston's summer heat broke records. All the while, kids were out on the field getting ready for the season ahead. Sherman Chow learned about a new app protecting those athletes.
So the question of whether athletes in high school, any kind, not just football, maybe it's baseball, maybe it's track, can practice outdoors these days all depends on this little guy. It is called a wet bulb thermometer, and the magic number, it must be below 91.2. We shot this earlier in the day at 11:30 a.m. and the heat was already brutal. There is ice, water, brakes, all the traditional cool-down aids. But this year, something new, the wet bulb, which reads
humidity, the ambient temperature, wind speed, and then I think that the radiation angle and things like that puts it in some fancy formula and gives us a temperature reading that determines, what we can and can't do.
Different readings allow for different tiers of practices with different durations, required breaks, and the amount of gear worn. Coaches also use a weather app purchased by school districts for monitoring weather. It includes the wet bulb readings and what practice tier is allowed.
Let's go, running backs, let's go! As coaches, what we constantly have kind of govern us, if you will, because we don't have our laptops or meteorologists, standing next to us. So it's an app that we use.
Paul, you need to get out here. Afternoon practices are hard to predict. Some days they're canceled or executed just halfway.
I personally think the wet bulb is supposed to be more accurate, but it seems definitely more strict than the heat index for sure.
Wet bulb reading applies not just to football players, but all high school athletes. My kids happened to run track when they were in high school, and on hot days they would pour water onto the surface of the track so that sprinters' hands could tolerate the heat. It is a little toasty when they get into those starting blocks. All kinds of new and old ways to try and keep kids safe.
We're going to talk about the teacher shortage next. This was an issue long before this year, even before the pandemic. Not only are teachers leaving the profession, many young people don't want to join it. Now, districts across Texas are trying to poach teachers from the state's largest district, Houston ISD. Jason Miles looked into how they're doing it.
West of San Antonio's famous Alamo and Riverwalk, Edgewood ISD serves about 8,000 students in Bexar County.
I think because we are a smaller school district, it's really personal.
The smaller district is among those working to land any teachers willing to relocate from the state's largest district, Houston ISD, especially amid the TEA's takeover. Cynthia Trevino is Edgewood's Chief of Human Resources.
As most districts are struggling to hire teachers, we are just really, trying to be innovative about our recruiting efforts.
Edgewood shared this flyer on social media specifically aimed at HISD teachers who may be leaving. And while there's always turnover, the takeover is a primary factor for some, according to what Houston Education Association President Michelle Williams recently told me.
We had a first-year teacher in our Facebook group say that she was deciding to leave, and she doesn't even have a job.
Williams is also among HISD educators who got emails from Fort Worth ISD about one of its hiring events. That 75,000 student district has reportedly downsized in some areas due to declining enrollment, but still needs teachers like Edgewood and so many others.
If we can, and we will try and recruit from all areas.
Offering, in some cases, signing and other bonuses to help entice new teachers.
To fill the vacancies in classrooms, HISD hired dozens of uncertified teachers, according to state-appointed Superintendent Mike Miles.
We have been erring on the side of certifications, as you can see, and we've hired, 800 people over the summer, or not 800, 600. People over summer, and we only have 84 at this point teachers we want to waive certification for.
Michelle Choi talked to Houston parents to find out how they feel about uncertified teachers in the classroom.
Some families tell us they're okay with it as long as the teachers are knowledgeable. Others say that those certifications matter because it gives them more confidence in a teacher's ability to teach. Right now, in order to become a classroom teacher here in Texas, the Texas Education Agency requires you to have a bachelor's degree, complete an educator preparation program, and pass certification exams. But we've since learned that's something HISD is looking to get around as the state's largest district continues to combat a staffing shortage. The district is now seeking a waiver from the TEA to hire potentially hundreds of teachers that are not certified in the state. But there's already pushback with this plan, including from the Houston Federation of Teachers union president. She believes the district is putting quantity over quality.
We've been getting reports that people are being told, just come on in. You know, if you want a job, just come on in. They're not even looking at the particular qualifications or certifications. They're just bringing them in. Educator wants to teach. They are not teaching because it's a way to make a check, and that's the difference.
HISD declined an interview request from KHOU 11, but sent us this statement saying, in part, state-appointed Superintendent Mike Miles will share details of his staffing plan during tomorrow's Board of Managers meeting, and that includes the targeted use of certification waivers for some educators in some circumstances.
Even the best academic district in the area faces teacher shortages. Mia Gradney asked Katy ISD superintendent about staffing challenges there.
Are there certified teachers in all classrooms or temporary teachers and substitutes in some?
Yeah, there will probably be some temporary teachers or substitutes in some classrooms, but for our fully hired staff, they are certified by the state of Texas, and we put a certified educator in there when we can. The teacher shortage in Texas is real. In America, it is real, that there is just a limited number of teachers out there. So what do? We're all competing for the same folks to go into the classroom. But one of the things we've done is in the last year, we're going to do a Grow Your Own program where we are going to be our own alternative certification provider. We've already petitioned the state of Texas for that, and we're just waiting on an answer. As soon as they tell us we're good to go, we're going to start growing our own to get into the classroom.
Is that something that's new? Would you be among the first to start doing this when it comes to school districts?
There are many private industries that have alternative certification programs where they do that, but there are a handful of school districts who actually do their own Grow Your Own program.
And obviously it's been productive if you're looking into it as well.
Yes, we think it will solve some of our teacher shortage problems in the future, but that's just one step we're taking. You probably are aware, if you've been interviewing superintendents, that the state of Texas, TEA, had the teacher vacancy task force, and they put together a list of things that would be helpful. One of them would be higher compensation. So that's a goal of ours, to attract and retain folks, is to make sure we're competitive within the market. I really like what our Board of Trustees did recently, and they passed a 3% raise for all our folks. So we are competitive in the market, but any bit we can do more would certainly be helpful.
And you've got to rely on voters to do that as well, too, to find those funds, so to speak, to give, because it doesn't all come from the state. The state sometimes falls short in giving you the money that you need for those increases.
Yeah, I wouldn't categorize it that way, because I think right now the state, if you've looked at what they're doing with their surplus, you know what I mean? And when they started the legislative session, they had a $33 billion surplus, and if you're familiar with the state's rainy day fund, yes, that's at its capacity. So there's enough money at the state, and the state just has not done that part of allocating it down to the schools.
That would be a better way to phrase it. They haven't allocated it to schools yet. Thank you for that. What is Katy ISD's long-term plan to remain competitive and to continue to attract the best of the best?
You bet. We have to build a culture in Katy ISD that's inviting for folks, and that's something we focus on all the time here, that to attract folks, anybody can put out a competitive salary, you know what I mean, and everybody is pretty close in salary, but we want this to be a place that's inviting for folks and that they feel that they are making a difference for our kids and our families. So that's a big piece of what we do. The culture and climate is going to be a big focus for us this year.
And do you have a lot of Katy ISD teachers who have stayed with the district for years, perhaps even moved up in positions as well?
We do. We do a lot of programs that way, and we have some specific programs are for teachers who want to move in that next capacity, whether that be in an instructional coach type position academic-wise, or moving into like school administration, assistant principals on up to principals.
You can watch Mia's full interview with Dr. Gogorski wherever you're watching this. Districts are definitely getting creative and generous to fill vacant positions, like HISD, which offered a $3,000 sign-on bonus for the first 50 CDL bus drivers hired for this school year. Janelle Bluda checked in with Fort Bend ISD.
One thing that helps here in Fort Bend is schools operate on staggered start times, which allows drivers to complete 6 routes a day. With just 5 days left until the first day of school, Fort Bend ISD is getting into gear.
Well, next Wednesday's game day, it's on.
Executive Director of Transportation Mike Jones says.
And it's that way for everybody. It's not just Fort Bend ISD, it's every school district across the country.
They're starting the year off a little short on bus drivers.
We have about 48 routes that don't have a driver assigned to it right now.
Jones says they have about 40 people in various stages of training, but with only days to spare, they'll have to fill those routes one way or another.
We cover most of those with office staff and shop people and our cover drivers and trainers and people that we have available for that.
In KHOU's Back to School survey, parents from across the Houston area are sharing their concerns heading into the school year. One concern is bus safety, with a parent asking, what are districts doing so students feel safe going to and from school to prevent bullying on the bus?
The best thing that we can do is train.
On top of putting cameras on every bus, he says that's something they address through regular training.
We do monthly safety meetings with everybody through the year, and we focus on topics like that all through the year.
Another parent wants to know how they can keep tabs on their child, asking, is it possible to implement a transportation app that gives updates about my child's bus?
But for the bus, they just have to get it near the reader, it'll beep and they go.
Jones says yes, and it's a program they're actually implementing in Fort Bend this year.
And that also provides a additional flow of information for the parents on where the bus is, when it's going to be at the stop, and so we're looking forward to getting that implemented.
If you are interested in applying for a job with Fort Bend ISD, you can apply on their website. We have that information on our website, KHOU.com.
Just be sure to look for this article. The link to apply is inside. Curriculum was the third issue of most concern for parents who filled out our survey. Teachers are worried too. One reached out to KHOU 11 asking about whether bilingual programs will be cut at some HISD schools. Maria Aguilera got answers from the district.
Jackie Anderson with the Houston Federation of Teachers says she's also been receiving text and emails, all from teachers hearing about cuts to bilingual and fine arts programs and worried about their jobs and student education.
I'm concerned because we hear a lot about cuts, but we're not hearing a lot about what's going to be added to support these students in the 29 schools. Because we know all of those schools were not IR campuses, but they are being affected in this transition.
TEA appointed Superintendent for HISD Mike Miles spoke with us over the phone today to answer some of those concerns about changes to the 29 new education system or NES schools as part of the takeover.
I don't want to promise that nothing will change because that's not true. We do have a program of study and work that the NES schools will have. But again, I think we're going to be able to accommodate most of the programs that are already existing.
As far as teachers losing their jobs, Miles says NES teachers may lose a position, but will not lose their contracted job.
Maria mentioned the new education system, which was introduced by Superintendent Miles. He mandated 28 schools adopt the changes, another 57 volunteered. So out of 274 HISD schools, 31% are now NES campuses.
This is very much a supporting model, one that will help teachers do their job better and help principals do their job better.
We've already always known that HISD is a tale of two cities, and it appears to me that the NES model is further strengthening that concept that some people are going to be treated differently from others.
Miles says NES schools will get additional support in areas like course curriculum offerings, PowerPoints, demonstrational learning, and more. They'll also have a new schedule. Stephanie Whitfield broke down the NES changes.
The new school year starts in a little over a month for Houston ISD, and 85 schools are going to look really different in the new year because they're part of the district's new education system, a program designed to support struggling schools. The new year at Houston ISD will come with a lot of change for schools in the new education system, a reform program intended to give certain campuses more resources. 28 underperforming schools were designated NES campuses in the new year. We've now learned An additional 57 schools voluntarily joined the initiative, praised by state-appointed Superintendent Mike Miles.
This is very much a supporting model, one that will help teachers do their job better and help principals do their job better.
Just last week, HISD announced new principals at 17 NES schools. Now, the district is showing what a typical day will look like for elementary school kids in the new education system. This is a sample schedule so parents can see what preschoolers through fifth graders will do hour by hour each day. The sample schedule highlights core education, time in small groups, and daily electives. The district says schedules for NES middle and high schools will be ready soon.
Another top concern for parents who responded to our survey was equity and inclusion. It's impossible to pinpoint exactly what bumped this up from 10th place last year to 4th place this year, but parents did express concerns about what's happening to books and in libraries in schools.
But if you're not going to close every library, you cannot have a situation where you are closing libraries for some schools in certain neighborhoods. And there are other neighborhoods where there are libraries fully equipped. What the hell are you doing?
That's Houston Mayor Sylvester Turner's reaction to news that HISD plans to close libraries in more than 24 schools and instead turn them into team centers. The NAACP office says the repurposing of libraries in communities of color is a civil rights issue that requires it to speak up and fight back. Gerald Harris spoke with people calling for a change.
To be quite frankly, I'm pissed.
Community leaders are not holding back, saying they don't want libraries in about 28 schools transformed into what they call discipline centers, many identified as underperforming schools.
Somebody will not get a chance to read a book in a library with the decisions that Mike Miles are making.
Reimagining libraries is not going over well for community leaders.
Our libraries are not supposed to be prisons.
And some HISD parents.
We do not want to see our kids go back to COVID conditions. We've already done the Zoom room. We've already done that. It didn't work.
HISD says libraries will not just be used for discipline, but the team centers will also be used for individualized instruction and coaching. To that, HFT Union President Jackie Anderson says,
let's be clear. Those are behavior centers. That's right. Children who are misbehave are going to be placed there and taught by a Zoom camera watching their teacher.
Leaders, including Representative Christina Morales, say the lack of accessible libraries can further harm communities of color.
Only 65% of our Latino households have broadband compared to 80% of white households. So removing libraries as a safe space and a source of internet access further exacerbates the divide and perpetuates educational inequities.
Even some schools that do have functioning libraries are running into issues. Katy ISD's Board of Trustees voted to stop purchasing new books for the school system's libraries. In a statement, district reps say a new state law is forcing school districts to review their policies on existing and future library materials. The law the district is referring to is House Bill 900. It doesn't take effect until April 1st, 2024, and it's intended to ban sexually explicit materials from school libraries. While Katy ISD reviews its inventory, it will move previously purchased books into storage until the district comes up with an evaluation process for future book purposes. Another new law passed this legislative session bans race-based hair discrimination in Texas, including hairstyles like locks and braids. Governor Abbott held a ceremonial signing of the Crown Act, which goes into effect September 1st. 2 Houston area students inspired the legislation after they were told to cut their hair or be disciplined.
So it's showing us that, hopefully this time Texas lawmakers actually care enough to do something to help Black people as a whole, something that we've struggled with for decades, that it seems like they're finally moving in the right direction to actually helping us. So to me, that feels good. It makes me happy to think about.
The bill says any student dress or grooming policy adopted by a school district, including a student dress or grooming policy for any extracurricular activity, may not discriminate against a hair texture or protective hairstyle commonly or historically associated with race. We're rounding out our coverage of your top back-to-school concerns by talking about learning loss. Mia asked Fort Bend ISD superintendent about it.
What about learning loss deficits and continued academic recovery after COVID?
And I think it's going to take us years to get past that. But gaps have to be addressed. We have a lot of different systems. We fund after school, we fund Saturdays, there's a lot of different tutoring. We bringing in a lot of mentors to help kids.
Additional courses and support are also being offered to students at the secondary level. And there are tutorials and group tutorials during school hours, which means children who are in after-school activities or whose parents may have transportation issues outside of school hours can also take part. In Aldine ISD, 4 schools are addressing the issue of learning loss by bringing kids back from summer vacation sooner. Michelle Choi was there for the first day of school back on July 13th.
Yeah, known as Aldine ISD's ATSI program, or Additional Days School Year, I'm told students attending these campuses only have a 2-week summer break. But school officials say these kiddos really don't mind because of how much fun they have learning during the school year. Hi. That includes students at Ermel Elementary, one of the 2 campuses where the initiative started. We were here this morning as students showed up for the first day of school. Aldine ISD kicked off the state-funded program 3 years ago. Lori Brooks is the school's new principal.
The ATSI program has been awesome at our school. We're in year 3. We've seen significant gains with our students academically, and our goal is to just keep building on that foundation and become even better.
The program, we're told, has been such a success, the district added 2 additional ATSI campuses this year, all 4 of them elementary schools. So what exactly is this program and how does it work?
Our additional day school year campuses are campuses that actually have an extended calendar. Basically, the students go to school 30 additional days. And the reason for that is because, you hear of learning loss throughout the summer. And so this has helped to mitigate that.
In addition, we're told the extra days allow for a more productive and structured school day and year focused on education.
We have project-based learning, we're STEM focused, we have dual language at our campus.
And fun.
Students love, the additional recess, the brain breaks, but not only is the focus on academics, there's also focus on enrichment courses for our students in the way it's structured, and so we're having students wanting to come to these schools.
That includes 10-year-old Maddox, who is starting 5th grade this year.
Because I get to come here and be a great student.
A shared goal of learning and having a great time.
At the end of the day, it's about improving student academics and school culture.
Yeah, in addition, we're told this program allows for teachers to collaborate more with their students and gives more time for parents to participate as well.
If you're looking for more information about our survey, its results, or about back-to-school coverage of these important topics, you can find it at khou.com/education. Now let's get into the nitty-gritty, the basics of back to school, like shopping for supplies. Rika Mudaraj explained why holding off might do some good.
Why should you wait to buy some school supplies? It's time to think about back-to-school shopping, and as parents know, those lists can be long. The days of showing up with a notebook and a number 2 pencil are long gone. According to the National Retail Federation, parents with kids in elementary through high school plan on spending an average of $890. But according to the experts, the secret to saving some money is to have a little patience and not buy all of your school supplies right now. So what can you wait to buy? Experts say to hold off on buying all of your kids' school clothes. Obviously, they have to have something to wear for the first couple of weeks of school, but clothes tend to go on clearance right after Labor Day, so that could be a good time to buy the bulk of their wardrobe. The same applies for the basics like notebooks, pens, and pencils. Those tend to get deeply discounted in September. So while students will need some supplies at the start of the year, it could be better to hold off a couple weeks for the rest of them. When it comes to tech, some of the best savings are actually happening right now. According to U.S. News, back-to-school shopping season is one of the best times to buy a new computer. That's because stores often offer discounts on computers to lure shoppers, but other items like headphones are better to buy later, not just for the discounts, but also so you don't waste money on the wrong item. Teachers can have rules about what headphones are allowed in their classroom, so find out those requirements before shelling out any money. With the Why, I'm Rika Mudaraj.
Backpacks are must-have gear for school children, but not all of them are created equal. Stephanie Whitfield shared why you'll want to be careful when picking the perfect backpack for your kids.
If you have school-age kids, you may be looking for a new backpack this year that fits their personality, but the one you're eyeing may not be the best option for their back health.
doctors say picking the right bag can reduce strain on growing bodies.
Dr. R.J. Turner is a sports medicine physician at UT Health Houston and Memorial Hermann.
I mean, you know, we tend to fall into making sure we have a backpack big enough to carry as much as we can. I mean, with lunchbox, books, supplies. But the issue with that is you fill the backpack up.
He says a child's backpack should never be more than 20% of their weight. So if your kid is 50 pounds, that means their backpack should be 10 pounds or lighter.
If you notice that your kid's leaning forward or backwards and there's not like really a good solution in terms of taking some of the weight out of the backpack, the best thing to do is just get a smaller backpack.
He also recommends backpacks with 2 straps that are padded, so the weight is evenly distributed. These same tips apply even in school districts that require clear backpacks. Dr. Turner says it's important to think about these things now.
And really, ultimately, it develops bad posture. When you have bad posture, you're going to limit the amount that a child can grow and things like that.
Because simple changes could make a big difference in preventing chronic back pain when your kids are older. Stephanie Whitfield, KHOU 11 News.
Today's students may not give much thought to new school supplies, but older generations, we used to get pumped up. We sent Dave Freilich out to reminisce with other older shoppers.
The school supplies section at almost any store like this is all about the future, all about potential. But talk to anyone who's long since earned their cap and gown, and you'll have to forgive them if their thoughts turn to the past.
Oh my God, the erasers.
Erasers?
Yes.
Why'd you love the erasers?
I don't know.
But you remember that?
Yes, I remember that. And markers too.
School supplies circa 2023 can look a bit different than years or decades before.
They get a lot better stuff than we did. Well, all we had was like backpacks. All we got was the old Army stuff, surplus stuff. They get these cool, you know, Nikes and stuff, Paw Patrol and all of that. We never had those.
As for other things, they've remained relatively unchanged. Listen, I'm not immune to the nostalgia either. These pens here are nice, but this is not an endorsement. I want to tell you about the Pilot Precise pen. I've been using, there's been a lot of versions, been updated over time, but I think I've been writing with one of these bad boys since about 1984, almost 40 years of the Pilot Precise. Sometimes when I hold this pen, I still think about how careful I tried to be with the pen back in school, because you didn't want to let it explode in your pants, because Mom wasn't too happy about that. Of course, if you really want to get people to talk about back to school nostalgia, forget pens, ask them about lunch boxes.
Oh yes, very cool lunch boxes. I mean, we used to have Speed Racer, G.I. Joe, but now they have all these things, and they also have the ice packs and the thermal and all of that stuff in it. I think all we had was little tin cans.
Ninja Turtles, the hard shell Ninja Turtle lunch boxes. I don't see those much anymore. But I just remember being jealous of everyone else's lunch boxes, thinking I made the wrong decision. But the Ninja Turtles was always solid as well.
Parents aren't the only ones spending money to get ready for school. Annie Yeli Ruiz found out teachers drop a lot of their own cash for their classrooms.
It's a busy time for many school teachers. They're getting their classroom back in shape, and third grade bilingual teacher Nancy Basoria,
I'm gonna start my 11th year,
is no exception. She starts decorating her room as soon as custodians here at Jensen Elementary allow her back in the school. But this veteran teacher spent several summer days shopping for her kiddos. She buys all the decorations and, yes, even has a theme for her room.
This year is gonna be UH, go Cougs.
It's all about the Cougs for this teacher, and every cent she's spent so far is her own money.
Sadly, yes, it is. Yes, like everything we use for decorations came out of our pockets.
Well, to be fair, she says she also dips into some of her husband's money.
Yes, it's every year a fight with him. You know, it's like I spend my money and I also spend a little bit of his money.
She goes through all of this trouble not just for her. She says she does this to have a nice space to teach, but more importantly, for her students.
For maybe, I don't know, maybe 1 or 2 students, this is a safe place during the whole year for them. So I want them to feel safe, to be engaged in the classroom, to be like able to come to school like every day and be happy in here.
And if you're wondering how much this teacher has spent this year to transform this into the KHOU's house?
So like $500? Maybe.
That's not counting the school supplies her kiddos need the most.
Glue sticks, pencils, journals, crayons.
Thanks to Facebook donations, she's able to buy those supplies for students who can't afford their own.
I don't do it in front of the other kids, but I leave it like under their desk so they can, like as I say, feel safe and happy in here.
All this can have a big payoff.
When I come to work and I see them every morning, picture like a doctor or maybe a lawyer or I don't know, maybe an engineer. So that's why I do that.
A dream shared by teachers all across our area, not just in this vibrant third grade classroom in Pasadena. Anayeli Ruiz, KHOU 11 News.
The return to school can mean a major milestone moment for your kids. Ugochi Aloka spoke to an expert who helps parents have those necessary conversations about growing up.
Therapist and parent coach Dr. Angela Jones says the first thing you want to do is celebrate your kids when they are moving into those milestone grades.
They're going from 5th grade to 6th grade and they're going from elementary to middle school. Of course, you want to prepare them and let them know like these are the changes that can happen, but you also want to, give them the encouragement of like, I know you're going to do great, right? And I'm so proud of you.
Now, your kids hearing I'm proud of you gives them a certain glow and sense of confidence to move forward. Acting scared or nervous about your child going up in grade level is a negative energy they can feel. And Dr. Jones says you don't want them to feed off of that energy. There are also certain conversations you should be having with your kids leading up to that jump in milestone grades. Now, Dr. Jones says for kids going into elementary school, emphasizing to your child the importance of following a class and lunchroom routine is important. And for elementary into middle school or middle into high school, Dr. Jones explains what you should already be educating your preteen or teenagers about.
By the time they get to 6th grade, you should have already talked to them about body autonomy, boundaries, what's not okay and what is okay in regards to touching, what to say, what to do.
And avoiding these tough topics can do more harm than good. Finally, Dr. Jones talks about not trying to do everything for your kids. I know I'm guilty of this when they get older, but letting them make mistakes so they can learn to figure out how to problem solve on their own.
You can watch Ugochi's full interview with Dr. Jones on KHOU.com. We want to celebrate your kids' first day back to school. You can text us your child's name and school district to 713-526-1111. You might just see them pop up on air. Before we go, a reminder to complete our back to school survey. Just text the word school to 713-526-1111 and we'll send it to you. Filling out the survey only takes a few minutes, and your responses help inform our coverage of the school year. Tell us what matters to you. Let us know what questions you want answered, because Mia Gradney's been taking those questions straight to superintendents across the Houston area. Fort Bend ISD, for example, is cracking down on discipline, upping the consequences for students involved in fights. Aldine ISD's superintendent says social media is her district's biggest challenge, dealing with what kids see on social media away from school and it's spilling over onto campus. There's a lot discussed with each district leader, so you can watch all of Mia's visits wherever you're watching this. In fact, you'll be able to watch one immediately following this special, so stay tuned. Thanks for watching this KHOU 11 Rewind. I'm Brandy Smith.